Huh?
Said I wish I would have started a few extra lifetimes earlier, but we're here now.
Okay, here we go. Everyone knows the words, right? Yes. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Shadi Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Shadi Gopi Janabala Girivadadhari Gopi Janabala Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopi Janapallabha Girivadadhari Gopi Janapallabha Girivadadhari Jasodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Prajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jamuna Tiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaur Haribo Gaur Premanandi Krishna Krishna
Harmony Collective, everyone, and special thanks to His Holiness Prabhu Maharaj for joining us in another January. I never regret pointing out Maharaj's consistency. Those of us that have been around Krishna consciousness for a little while, then we know that it takes a lot to stay consistent with even the simple things that we would like to make matter. And Maharaj does all of that the average of us try to do. And he remains traveling, but he doesn't go here and there. He has very specific connections to communities that he's cultivated for decades. And that time and energy and affection that he's poured in bears a certain fruit that you can see in those that stay close to him. And we're very grateful, Maharaj, that you choose to keep us close as well. Maharaj is, of course, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada and an initiated spiritual master and a scholar. And I always look forward to his presentations because he highlights specific sections of the Shastra and lets us kind of dive deep and unpack things which we might feel familiar with or that we've heard before or know. But with Maharaj as the guide, there's always new insight that can come. So welcome back, Maharaj. Very happy to have you with us.
That's a very nice introduction.
My favorite part of my service.
Well, it's not. It's one of my least favorite parts of speaking because sometimes they just read it from a phone, and you know what I mean.
I didn't even bring my phone.
Yeah, but it's a script. They just read it. They read the script. You're American. You didn't forget your phone. Come on.
It's not too far away.
Okay. Okay. Something that I recently heard or read in Purijan's My Glorious Master. It's a really nice dive into understanding more deeply our founder Acharya, like who is he really, besides, Jai Prabhupada? What was his personality? What was he like? What was it like being with him? So Purijan had a substantial amount of association with Srila Prabhupada, and rather than a lot of anecdotal things, just something that he said is something that Prabhupada, that Purijan writes in his book. There was some discussion, I can't remember the exact discussion, but there was a point in time when Purijan was asked to go to, newly married, asked to go to Hong Kong and establish a temple. Now, he grew up in New York, so he wasn't like intimidated by urban settings. But Hong Kong was yet another story. It was they spent 3 years, he and his wife spent 3 years with a little place that cost as much as, Rockefeller Center. And they little following, but not much in 3 years. And he made a request of Srila Prabhupada, without details, to relocate. It wasn't like throwing in the towel, but it just like he wanted something that had more traction. And Prabhupada agreed. He consented. And then some comment like 6 months later, after he had consented, Prabhupada said something that made it very clear, and it's in his book, that what Prabhupada was most pleased with was somebody was steady at something. And you didn't have to be something big or, in the category of important, but steady at something. And that pleased Prabhupada to see that. And when he didn't see it, he would express it facially or verbally or in various ways. So maintaining steadiness is, for those of you that are been around for a while, try to remain steady because that's something that pleases our founder Acharya and other devotees that care about the continuity of the Hare Krishna movement going forward, or the propagation of bhakti going forward. Steadiness. Okay, enough on that topic. I started this prayers of Prahlad Maharaj when I was in a much warmer climate in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I mean, I left it was 78 degrees. When I got here, it was 10 degrees. And you came in, it was minus category. Minus?
4.
-4. He was also in Fort Lauderdale. So we got, through the first 15 or so verses, and now we're at around verse number 26 since I got here, verse number 26. This is, of course, Prahlad is the recipient of mercy of Lord Nrsingadev. There's Lord Nrsingadev placing his hand on little Prahlad's head. And on either side, there's Lord Brahman, Lord Shiva, and Ganesh, and other, VIPs in the demigod category. But Prahlad superseded them in his purity and his ability to pacify and please the personality of Godhead, Lord Nrsingadev. So this is text 30. We'll see how far we get, because I want to end on time. But texts 26 to 29. A little appreciation that I've been making is, in the course of covering these topics, it seems to me that there's certain verses that are come in a little cluster. And each cluster has a theme, and then he moves to another theme, moves to another theme. So this theme is the impartiality of Lord Nrsingadev in giving his mercy, although he gave his mercy especially to Prahlad. So I'm going to start with the verse from Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavatam is the graduate study of the undergraduate study. It's the undergraduate study being Bhagavad Gita. Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 29. And there's specific focus on Baladev Vidyabhusan and his commentary. This is a very nice painting of Baladev Vidyabhusan. In his commentary, he writes, "You will liberate the devotees and bring them to you, but you will not do this for the non-devotees. Then, do you, the Supreme Lord, not show prejudice in the form of preference or repulsion and repulsion? You prefer this and repulsed by that. Looks like it." So he writes that in his commentary. So here's the verse, Sama Aham Sarva Bhuteshu, he's equal to all living entities. Na me dvesho stina priyaha, doesn't have dvesha or disregard or disdain for any, and doesn't have special partiality or priya towards others. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. He's the super soul within the heart of all these different varieties of living entities. I'm equal to all, and at least in the equanimity and as super soul. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend. More than a friend. Look at this. This is Gopal Kumar returning to the spiritual world, and Krishna is embracing him. He's in me, and I am also a friend to him. So the clue is he is simply reciprocating, or yetam mam prapadyante. He's exchanging according to one's regard for him. That's quite natural. The Lord provides everyone with a generous supply of necessities of life. He is just like a cloud that pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. This is Prabhupada. Krishna is compared to rain. Trees absorb rainwater and then grow and produce fruits. Some trees produce bitter fruits and others produce sweet ones. Does this mean the rain is partial? No. Similarly, regardless of a living entity's situation, Krishna nourishes everyone equally. That's a very important understanding about a quality of Krishna, just as a diamond complements a gold ring. Krishna and his devotee complement one another. It's a nice understanding. So it's in reciprocation or in kind, exactly proportionate to one's regard for Krishna. Krishna reciprocates in all respects, devotee, non-devotee alike. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. That's the devotee. The Lord is a diamond. And so this combination is very nice. Poetic, but it conveys the message. So Krishna is impartially partial, or his impartiality allows everyone to become his devotee. That's the function of Paramatma. He's partial to devotees. That's his Bhagavan feature. But it's the same person, just a different feature, allowing everyone to become his devotee, Paramatma. So this is the first of those texts. That was just the Bhagavad Gita introduction to our topic. So here's the first of the 4 texts. Unprecedented mercy was causelessly extended to Prahlad despite his birth. So this is the verse. And you see there's a little color coding. Tava anukampa. Tava anukampa. Krishna is showing his special mercy. Tava anukampa. By Padmakara, he placed his lotus hand as a sign or expression of mercy upon Prahlad. And this was right when he was roaring and the demigods couldn't calm him down, and they sent Prahlad forward, and immediately he stopped roaring, placed his palm on Prahlad's head. Tava anukampa Padmakara prasada. Here's the translation. O my Lord, O Supreme, because I was born in a family full of the hellish material qualities of passion and ignorance, what is my position? And what is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was never offered even to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? You never put your lotus hand upon their heads, but you put it upon mine. So he's recognizing his unique position before. So among the demigods that tried to offer prayers to calm Lord Nrsingadev down was Lord Brahma. And this one, that one, the other one, and eloquent prayers, but he was continuing to roar very loudly. And then he calmed down and placed his hand on Prahlad's head. The causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may be bestowed upon anyone, regardless of his position in this material world. Everyone is eligible to worship the Supreme Lord, irrespective of his material position. So on the left, these are people that are looking a little destitute and are lame or in some situation of difficulty. And on the right, that's Draupadi. And here's the personality of Godhead, Krishna, giving special consideration to Draupadi. So those of you that have been around for a while, you know what Laghu Bhagavatamrita is. And for those of you that haven't been around for a while, here's what Laghu Bhagavatamrita is. It's a book by Rupa Goswami, and it's a very thick book, thick book, and it's just on one topic, the avatars of Vishnu, taking the first part of Canto 1, Chapter 3, because there's 6 topics that are, or 6 questions that are asked in Canto 1, Chapter 1. So it addresses one of those questions. Who are the? Please describe the avatars of the Lord as they appear in this world. So avatar is a Sanskrit word that means descending from the spiritual realm, from Vaikuntha, into this realm, and then performs activities that are transcendental, because it's him in a world that's not so transcendental. So this Lago Bhagavatamrita is that type of book. And there's a passage where it's describing Prahlad and Lord Nrsingadev, and this particularly this verse. This verse shows the superiority of Prahlad. Prahlad expresses the incongruity of himself being born in a demon family. There's the Sanskrit. Kva suretara kule jato ham, and getting the Lord's mercy. My family is filled with the modes of passionate ignorance, and that mercy of your lotus hand was not offered to Lakshmi, Brahma, or Lord Shiva, but was offered to my head by you. So it's the special, triple special mercy. And it's who is the fit recipient? Anyone. He goes on. Here, Sri Prahlad shows the trademark Vaishnav quality of utter humility, reflecting upon the fact that he was born in a family of godless demons. He is amazed that he can have an intimate relationship with the Supreme Lord. He also considers Lord Nrsinga unlimitedly kind to show mercy to a fallen soul like himself. Thus, Prahlad is thrilled that Lord Nrsingadev touched his head with his lotus hand. Now, in addition to thrilled that he touched his head with his hand, it's described by that, merely by that touch, he felt, and it happened, that whatever residual material contamination was left in his body was completely gone. Squeaky clean, completely. So besides thrilled. And here's, on this same verse, this is Jiva Goswami, and little background. Jiva Goswami wrote 4 commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of those 4 was called Krama Sandarbha. Krama means step. And so step by step, he, like Prabhupada did, in each verse of the Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary. So here's his commentary on this verse. Having shown his miserable condition, Prahlad now shows strength of the Lord's unconditional mercy. And in another of the Sandarbhas, he writes, Brahma and others were present, but the Lord put his hand on Prahlad's head. They did not get the same mercy as Bali or Prahlad when the Lord appeared. No, Bali, I should probably ask a few questions about is there anybody here in the audience that needs a little introduction to who is Bali Maharaj? Raise your hand. You all know. Wow. Super duper. Okay. Bali was a grandson of Prahlad. So, he also came from that same demoniac line of Hiranyakashipu. And his grandson became a king, and Shukracharya, the priest of the demons, advised Bali, don't surrender to him. Don't make a promise to him that he'll give you 3 paces of land, although he's a little midget, a dwarf. He's got short legs, yeah, but watch out. He'll take everything from you. And because he's Vishnu. So Bali's thought well, if he's Vishnu, then I should give him everything. If he takes everything, then it belongs to him anyway. So, because he was a Vaishnava. Oh, he was a grandson of Prahlad, who was a pure Vaishnava. So Bali surrendered everything. He surrendered everything. And after he surrendered everything, then Vamana said, you promised me 3 paces. I took everything with 2. Now where do I put the 3rd foot? Place it on my head. So Bali got that mercy and Prahlad got that mercy, but the others didn't get because of that piti or affection the personality God had for his dear servitors. And here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaking on this verse or writing, even though there is no one as low as I, you have made me the greatest. How can I describe the greatness of your mercy? See, he's low, and Lord Nrsingadeva is high, or the greatest exhibitor of mercy. One gets the causeless mercy of the Lord through devotional service or bhakti. Here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. We can say the verse together. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. Translation. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So this is anybody. Through the medium of devotional service, elevation is possible from any position, high, low, or in between, and from this culture, that culture, this financial status, that it doesn't matter. There's no material condition for taking shelter of the personality of Godhead, and that is the medium through which mercy is given to the devotee. So here's back to our verse for today, this evening, 26. Prahlad Maharaj, being a great devotee, thought the body born of his father to be born of passion and ignorance, but Prahlad was fully engaged in the service of the Lord. His body did not belong to the material world. Now this is another very important understanding is going to be brought out in the upcoming verses. The so-called material bodies of devotees who fully engage in devotional service to the Lord, being constantly in the fire of spiritual life, have nothing to do with matter but are fully spiritualized. And Prabhupada gives the example. Just like cannonballs, iron cannonballs in contact with fire. So the cannonballs are just metal, but you put it in contact with fire, and it becomes fire. Fire-like in the sense that you touch it to something that can ignite, and immediately it burns. Similarly, this is the hand of the Lord placed on Prahlad's head, made his body spiritual, and then similarly, because Prahlad had become fully spiritual, his body is no longer material, but has become spiritualized, like iron placed in fire. Commonly, Prabhupada would say iron rod, but here it's cannonballs. That's the example is used. So, in this region of devotional service, what's particularly important about it? This is the same message as what Devamadava was saying. Anyone who engages in continuous devotional service to the Lord is situated in the spiritual world and has nothing to do with the material qualities, the 3 material qualities. Now, continuous, it's like if you take an iron rod or a cannonball and put it in a fire, it gets hotter, it becomes like fire, but if you don't leave it in the fire, it'll change. Iron rods don't stay hot. Your kitchen pot can be made hot and cook something inside the pot. But after a while, you empty out the pot and it becomes very cool again. So continuous devotional service means uninterrupted. Ahaitukya pratiyata. Devotional service is so great that when it is offered even by those born in low families, the Lord accepts it as being as valuable as the service offered by the goddess of fortune. Now, she's in a special position, obviously. She's one of a kind. She's his own spiritual potency. But as his own spiritual potency is spiritual, and she makes offerings to the Lord he likes and he accepts, but even somebody that isn't so special, but offers with love and devotion, and he likes us just as much. That's the statement that we're hearing. Devotees, quote, this is from Madhvacharya, from some commentary of Madhvacharya, Brahmatarka, commentary on the topic of absolute truth, Brahman. Devotees enjoy life under any circumstances. Paratak swatak karmataha. As he is instructed by others, as he acts himself, or as he performs his material activities, he enjoys life in every respect. And that's, due to the consciousness of being in contact with Krishna, because how he acts, or all of the mind, body, and words of a devotee is connected to Krishna, never disconnected from Krishna. And so there's a happiness, there's an enjoyment, as the Supreme is as fire is hot, the iron rod becomes hot. And as the devotee who is in touch with the Supreme pure becomes purified. And the Supreme happiness, he becomes filled with happiness naturally, without some extraneous or extra endeavor. It just happens very naturally. We may be able to finish. Let's see. So that's the first of 4 verses, 26. He showed special mercy to Prahlad because of the pure devotion of Prahlad in comparison and contrast to the others. The impartial and benedictory nature of the Lord is the next verse. Here you see at the bottom, Sevanarupam. Sevanarupam in big letters. Here's the translation. Unlike an ordinary living entity, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, the favorable and the unfavorable, because for you there is no conception of higher and lower. So what's meant by the illustration on the right is modes of nature. Mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness, and transcendence on the upper right side. And similarly, activities on the lower left side, passion and gluttony, and the consequence of that kind of gluttony, or those who are engaged in giving charity. So the painting is meant to show a grahasta, or person giving some wealth or some gift to a young brahmachari, and those that live their life in that way, charitable disposition towards the renunciates, they receive a higher destination. Mode of goodness activity leads to a mode of goodness place. And the activities of worship on the upper left lead to the place of the spiritual realm. That's the byproduct. But so from Krishna's perspective, back to he sees all living entities equally, he's not partial. He certainly can see the difference between a dog and a devotee. But from the spiritual perspective, in the heart of the dog, or there's the super soul. And within the heart of that super soul, there's the individual soul. Here's Vishwanath, his commentary. You do not consider high or low in giving your mercy. Brahma is high, and I'm low. You do not have a conception of higher or lower natures like other persons because you're the friend of the universe. Then the personality Godhead might argue or reason. Then I should be merciful everywhere at all times? The answer, yes. Just as a desired tree gives fruit according to one's desires and not a different fruit, you give results according to the degree of service arising by your mercy, not based on the high or low birth of the jiva. The cause is the degree of mercy. And then the degree of mercy, this is not commentary, but the degree of mercy has everything to do with the regard that a living entity has for the object of love, Krishna. But supposing there's no love, supposing it's the opposite, supposing it's a bad attitude, like there are demons that had bad attitude toward Krishna. Or, just taking in practical terms, there were times in different places, particularly, where the devotees were met with resistance from the public. And the public would then go complain to the police or, something. Because, the devotees that went out on Harinam Sankirtan, they weren't so restrained and so refined. They're loud, broadcasting the sound vibration of the holy name, understanding that would be pleasing to Lord Chaitanya. But sometimes people didn't like it. More than sometimes. Sometimes people liked it. Sometimes people didn't like it. Then what to do when they would ask Prabhupada, be discreet, but continue chanting boldly. Krishna will protect you. Continuing, nevertheless, you offer your benedictions according to the level of one's service, exactly as a desire tree delivers fruits according to one's desires, and makes no distinction between the lower and the higher. So the Vedas, what's a desire tree? The Sanskrit word is kalpa vriksha. Vriksha means tree, and kalpa means desire. Like a vancha kalpa trubhyasya, kripa sindhubhya evacha, kalpa, desire. So desire trees produce whatever one desires. The Vedas are compared to it like a desire tree. The Vedas supply anything people wish. There's prescriptions within the Vedas to get this and that and the other thing, spiritual, material, or mixed. And because there are different types of people that want spiritual, material, or mixed. So the Vedas give prescription, like a desire tree that can supply any kinds of fruit that people desire. So if there's a desire for a mango, you don't get pineapple. You get mango from a desire tree that's capable of producing any kind of fruit at any type, at any season. Now it's not simply mechanical, but there's an exchange between the tree or the Vedic process and the mantras and the procedures, and then what comes into one's life. So the Vedas aren't considering higher and lower. Krishna's not considering higher and lower. Krishna's like the desire tree. The Lord clearly says, quoted in the verse, in this purport, Yeyatamam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. You know the verse from 4th chapter. As one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. So on the right, there's Shishupal losing his head. By insulting Krishna 100 times, Krishna separated the speaking part of his body from the rest of his body. Or there in the center, that's Putana. She came to kill Krishna. And instead of killing Krishna, she was killed by Krishna. And on the left side, that's Draupadi. So she was protected. Draupadi. It's a nice story. Nice Mahabharata description. I'll describe the painting a little bit because we're going a little quickly. Up on the raised platform, that's the Kauravas, headed by Duryodhana, seated on the big throne. That's the blind king, Dhritarashtra, and, his buddies, Dronacharya. Dronacharya is about one side of the king. Anyway, Duryodhana is the one that's ordering Dushasana to disrobe Draupadi, because you can see on the right side, there's the Pandavas, and they had a gambling match, and they lost, and they lost, and they lost, and one of the things they lost is all their weapons piled up there on the center part of the painting. So one of the things that they gambled was their wife, and they lost. So once they lost, Karna, who was insulted by Draupadi, not deliberately insulted, but she refused to have Karna engaged in her Swayamvar ceremony because he was found to be the son of a Sudra. So he wasn't fit to be a competitor for her hand in marriage. So he felt a lot of anger towards Draupadi. He was very happy to see her being disrobed, but they couldn't do it. Dushasana came forward, grabbing her sari, pulling and pulling. Draupadi was very powerful. I mean, at one point, with her fist, she knocked Jayadratha to the ground when he tried to grab her in a solitary place. She punched him and he fell to the ground. She is a strong lady. So she was holding on to her sari while Dushasana was trying to disrobe her. And he was stronger than she was. So she threw both hands up in the air. I'm at your mercy, Krishna. You please protect me. Hey Krishna, hey Govinda. In a helpless mood. So Krishna came. So according to one's surrender, that's the verse from Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, he reciprocates. He rewards accordingly. One's relationship with the Supreme Lord is, once again, in proportion to the surrender and the service. There's the two, seva, anurupam, the surrender and the service one renders unto the Lord. One's position is determined by one's desires. This is Bhagavad Gita chapter 13. The Lord is not responsible for the higher and lower grades of our existence. So we are the architects of our good fortune or ill fortune. That's the nice teaching. We can't blame the person who delivers the good fortune or delivers the ill fortune, because we, by our actions, we're determining our credential or our capacity to receive. And according to one who does misdeeds, they get misdeeds, the proportionate difficulties. One who steals has his stuff stolen. One who does harm to others, one who kills an animal will be killed by the animal. And as an eye for eye and tooth for tooth, as the Bible says. So the understanding of one according to one's deserve, or as you reap, so you shall sow. According to how you act, you get response. And we're responsible. This is chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita. made reference in this purport. If one is interested in returning home, back to Godhead, he can be promoted there also. According to the demands of a particular devotee, he receives a result by the grace of the Lord. See the painting that's on the left. These are, ignorance, passion, and goodness. And depending upon the mode of nature that one is situated in, their future destiny is accordingly. Whether one is without desire, without material desire, or is desirous of all fruitive results, or is after liberation, one should with all efforts try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. Now, this is a verse, or paraphrasing more or less, of a verse from Canto 2. It's very similar to the messages we find in Bhagavad Gita, because it's the same source. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking, and the Bhagavatam is person speaking about Krishna. It's a symphony of the same sound vibration, only slightly different language, but the same message. So step back. The overall picture is what happens in our life, good fortune, ill fortune, is dependent upon the personality of Godhead and how he sees and receives our efforts towards him. Now, supposing somebody is an atheist or agnostic, they're different characters, but according to their position, they receive in kind. So, and then the devotee, depending upon the modes of nature and how we conduct our life in devotion, there's reciprocation. It's not what happened to Prahlad wasn't an accident. This is Canto 7, Chapter 9. And the very beginning of Canto 7, Chapter 10, at the end of Prahlad's prayers, Lord Nrsimhadev speaks to him, and Lord Nrsimhadev offers Prahlad any benediction you like. And in response, beginning of the next chapter, Prahlad says, please don't tempt me like this. I'm your devotee. You're the master and I'm the servant. That's it. There's nothing else between us. I'm not doing something to get something. There's no business contract going on. It's just service to you. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. Squeaky clean, nothing else. And then Prahlad says, you sent me to this world to teach the way of pure devotional service. So the way of pure devotional service is you don't request of the Supreme for something material, and even if something material is offered, you're not inclined to receive it. I mean, as the conversation goes on, because Hiranyakashipu has been killed, Lord Nrsimhadev wants Prahlad to be the next king, and Prahlad doesn't want to become king. That's material. Is it possible for someone that's not materially interested to become a king? Yes. He becomes a king in pure devotion. It's possible. Now, normally when somebody gets a position of king, they're puffed up. They have pride and swagger and, take their authority and their wealth and their influence and misuse it. It's very common. I was just hearing a series of lectures. I'll share this. You all seem to be quite learned here. So is anyone here that is unaware of that section of the Bhagavatam where there's the churning of the milk ocean? Anyone unaware? You're all aware. Good for you. So when they're churning the milk ocean, there's the churning rod under a mountain, and the Kurma avatar is the base so that he can churn the churning rod. And then there's Vasuki, he's the serpent. And the demigods are given the tail, and the demons are given the head because they don't want the tail. But then they get scorched by the fire coming from Vasuki. And they're churning and churning and churning. And one of the things that happens is there's a lot of poison that comes. So question, the churning of the milk ocean, there's poison that comes? What's the poison? It's a good question, isn't it? From the milk ocean comes poison. And there's nectar, there's amrita, or immortality that comes. There's also poison that comes. So what to do? The demigods approach Lord Shiva. You're very merciful, you're very powerful, can you do something? So he agrees. He doesn't swallow, but he holds all the vast amount of poison, not like a few drops, but a vast amount of poison in his throat. His throat turns blue. But he doesn't swallow it. So he's a gifted personality. So the question again is, what's the poison? And what's the amrita? Or the nectar of immortality? Because that's what amrita means, immortality. And the demigods want, and the demons want, and the goddess of fortune comes and takes the pot. So what's the poison? And the nice description is, very simple answer, that with what comes from the churning of the milk ocean, the Vedas are produced, and the Vedas, in the hand of a good person, produces immortality. But in the Vedas, in the hand of a degraded person, they may become proud. Is it possible? The answer to this question is yes. Is it possible for someone to become a very learned person and to become proud because of that vast learnedness? It happens. And it's very unpleasant when somebody is very learned and very proud. And they because they're very learned, they know how to wield that club or that the power of knowledge. But they do in a way that's prideful. It's very distasteful. That's the poison. So one has to be very careful when progressing in Krishna consciousness, that you're progressing in Krishna consciousness towards that Krishna only should be pleased. That's what's being spoken here. Even with desires. So with desires means desires of something that can be used in the service of the Supreme Lord. So knowledge, or the Vedas, or anything, wealth, beauty, strength, whatever. It should be utilized in the service of the Supreme Lord, and not otherwise. Because if there's the otherwise spirit, it could be really messy and make a big disturbance within society because of pride and ill motives. Pure devotion is pure devotion. Here's a little commentary on this verse from same Jiva Goswami. You are merciful to the devotees. That's remarkable, but it's not so remarkable since there are examples of the Krishna being the Supreme Lord, being merciful to the devotees. But your mercy to me is most remarkable without examples. There's, you've reached down to the bottom, I'm at the bottom of the barrel, and you pick me up, and you put your hand on my head. So that's most remarkable. And this is illustrating the power of your mercy. That's what Prahlad is speaking. Now, I don't know how much to go, because I understand Thursday evening is your kirtan night, yes?
Typically.
Huh?
Typically.
Physically?
Typically.
Typically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was noticed. And so here's I'm at a juncture. I could just pause and go into discussion. Because this kind of a group, my guess is there's going to be lots of questions. And that's nice. It's one of the best parts. And I've kind of been going quickly, probably not, it wasn't the right choice, because if there's 2 more verses. But if I stop now, here's the choice. Stop now and just have discussion. We'll end when we end. And when 7:30 bell rings, your kirtan starts. Or I just keep going, and we may run out of time, so I don't have time for questions. It's A and B, 2 options. I'm looking around the room. Any suggestions? Huh? Keep going.
Does anyone have any questions? I have a question.
Okay, let's do questions. And there'll be lots of questions. This audience, we're gonna have lots of questions. Go ahead.
Okay.
He's doing a recording, so we can hear you anyways, but
Gotcha. Okay, so in the first, I'll say the first half so far,
yeah,
the example that was used was of the cannonballs. And if we're staying in the fire, then we'll become
fire-like.
fire-like and we'll be in the spiritual atmosphere.
Become spiritual.
becomes-
The body becomes spiritual.
The body becomes spiritualized.
Yeah.
So sometimes, although externally can look like I'm doing the things that look like I'm in the fire,
Mm.
but it can feel like, those faux fireplaces. It just
Yeah.
is like some electronic flames, but it's not really warm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like that.
No, that's cheating.
Exactly. So my question is,
You touch and you find out. That's how you find out. Fire burns,
yeah,
and that doesn't burn. It just looked like.
yeah,
So, but so be in association of a devotee who's fire-like, and be in the association of somebody that's a pretender, and what happens? You feel it.
mm,
And then there's qualities or characteristics, just like last night at Ann Arbor. One student came up and said, "How do I know if are there symptoms that I can use to evaluate myself? Am I progressing?" And so here's some verses, read them. And there's symptoms, lakshana, characteristics of higher consciousness. And the symptoms of not higher consciousness or lower consciousness. And you evaluate accordingly. And then you can be in the association of somebody that's a pretender, that isn't the real thing. That's a good example, by the way. Those fires that it's no fire.
yeah.
That's good.
I had heard Jayapataka Maharaj on a Prabhupada memory say he used to always try and think of good questions, and Prabhupada praised him. So I was thinking maybe I can think of a good question. And
That's a good question. Anybody else here? Yes, right behind you.
The devotee, Jiva Goswami and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and all the devotees always talk about how low that they are, but they also are not naive. And like Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur wrote Madhurya Kadambini, where he talks stages of bhakti, and he can how one can identify where they are. So he
Yeah.
also knows
He knows.
where he is, but
He has an
Yeah.
intelligence that can discriminate.
so then how come they are Is it purely sentimental when they say that?
No.
What logic is there to say that they're lower than like Jagai and Madai and things like that?
Well, it's not logic. It defies logic. It's contradictory to logic. So what is it if it's not logic? It's a characteristic of their advancement. One doesn't cancel the other. Being in a mood that's abjectly humble is a characteristic of one who is spiritually elevated. You know, if I say in practical terms, it's not self-deprecation. It's humility. There's a difference. Not just beating themselves up. They feel. We had this discussion the other day from some other group. Tiny. You were there, in the basement. What is it? So it's what does humility mean? My capacity is quite insignificant. Now that's tiny soul compared to the big fire, the blazing fire. But then amongst little souls, I'm like Jagai Madhai, or a worm in the stool. It's a characteristic, it's a symptom, it's a lakshana of spiritual elevation. Amanitvam badambitvam. You know the verse? Chapter 13, text 8 through 12. That's how it begins. Humility and pridelessness, the first two characteristics of one who is situated in knowledge. So that humility is a characteristic of one situated in knowledge. And they're situated in knowledge, so you press their knowledge button and they can tell you all kinds of things. And at the same time, they're very humble. It's a characteristic. When I'm feeling humble, I can receive a lot because I'm feeling the need to receive because this feeling of humility. My receivers are on to the max. And I need it because I'm this, very insignificant entity. It's a characteristic of the capacity for reception of transcendental mercy that is bestowed upon them, and then they display it. There's different moods, and what one of those is, you're not hiding their gift, but they're feeling, I don't have it. It's just a characteristic of knowledge or elevated spiritual status. And they all have it. I mean, all those that are truly gifted spiritually, they're humble. It's a nice question.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
If it's a characteristic or a symptom, then should it also be cultivated independently, or is it not necessary because it
Oh, you know
naturally
the
arises?
answer.
Why should it be?
No, the answer is, what is that one thing that you should strive for, and behind that one thing, all the other things come? Bhakti. Yes, yasti bhaktir bhagavat chakinchana sarvayar ganesh tatra samasatesra. You're a learned person, you know the verse. So the good qualities of the suras, the demigods, become decorations. Supposing I'm trying to become, I'm this new person, or relatively new person. I've been around a while, but I'm trying to become more devoted. But I have an obstacle. There's pride. Should I try to smudge out the pride, or repress it, or just dance around it, or what do I do? Go towards the light, and the darkness is dispelled. It happens as a byproduct. The good qualities follow behind the one.
So
And without the one, the other, they're glitter gold. Just not real gold. Like his question, or example of the fire that's not fire. Gold that's not gold. It glitters, but it's not gold. And how do you find out? You scratch a little bit. Put that not gold into fire. What happens? Put real gold into fire. It's pure gold. It's pure gold. That's real gold. By the fire of ordeal, one can tell. Scratch the surface a little bit. Give somebody some discomfort. See what happens. The characteristic will sustain. So bhakti. Supposing I'm this same new devotee, and I have a tendency to become angry. You may know some people that have a tendency. I mean, probably not you, but you may know some people that have a tendency to become angry.
Yeah, I've got a friend.
Yes, one of his friends. One of his friends. So it's not just grit your teeth, and the anger is going to go away. Even the anger may subside, the tendency will still remain. So what to do about that tendency? We had this discussion the other day in the basement. So when the root is still there, clip the weed, and the weed's going to grow later because the root is still there. So how to take that way? Bhakti. That's the panacea. Bhakti, because that's our natural condition. The wholesome natural condition of the soul in a healthy state. So we don't ignore tendencies to become angry. We check it on the strength of bhakti. And then not only check it on the strength of bhakti, but then it dissolves on the strength of bhakti. In the higher stages of bhakti. Gone. False ego is gone. The modes of nature are gone. So where those other qualities arise from, the modes of nature. How do we become free from the modes of nature? I'm looking at the clock, and it says 7:15, and the bell's going to ring at 7:30. And there was just 2 questions. I think we made the right choice. You have something?
I had a few questions, but maybe we can start with one of them. We spoke about continuous devotional service or being steady. I was wondering, how can one define that for themselves to understand if they are or are not being steady? Does it mean I'm continuing to go to the temple, I'm continuing to have devotee friends, or is it more detailed, like
Well,
I'm
there's
continuing.
quantitative and quality. There's both, not one or the other. You take one without the other. You take the other without the one. It's incomplete. They're both must be there. Qualitative, focused, heading in the right direction while I'm doing, not just doing. Both. Or, I can't just be focused on where I'm going without doing. It's both. Supposing somebody's incapacitated, their health or whatever the circumstance of life is, they can't. Then their consciousness, the internal part is the most important part, because external may be, curtailed for some reason or another, or in circumstance or another. So the internal is is more important, but the practical service as circumstance permits. you may be one. You know, some people who have some physical something or other, health or something physical. I mean, I just received a letter today from someone who they had some physical problem, but it's getting better. But their husband has, some need, and they can't do what they would want to do because their husband has some needs. So they have to, they do what their husband needs. And they're not feeling frustrated by it. So the bhakti isn't created or taken away by a circumstance, but the internal bhakti is the most important. If your circumstance doesn't permit the external, then you accept it. If it's factual, but then husband and wife relationship is important. How to sort that one out. You have another question?
I was wanting to hear a little bit more about, I think I heard you mention that when Nrsingadev touched Prahlad Maharaj's head,
Yeah.
I can't recall correctly, but something about all the pending.
Yeah, it's way back in the beginning, the early parts of the chapter. So, you want to hear more about what does that mean?
Yeah, in terms of Prahlad Maharaj, who he was in his position, and it sounded like he still had some pending. I don't want to say contamination, but
he wasn't a contaminated person. That's not the indication. It's not like residual contamination was still hanging around and he got freed from that. It wasn't quite like that, but rather the description is on the positive and the negative. On the positive, his hairs stood on end. His body began to tremble. He was experiencing Bhava Bhakti just by the touch of the Lord's hand. And the mention specifically is any contamination, because by being involved in the material atmosphere, he's the son of Hiranyakashipu, and his teachers are demons, and his classmates are the sons of other demons. So he's not in a wholesome atmosphere. Whatever that may be, touching him, that was gone. Not to say that he was, it wasn't there yet, but gone. So now all of that's removed, all of that influence is removed. Not like he bought into it, but it's gone. And now it's just him offering these wonderful prayers, an unobstructed relationship between the two. That's the meaning, as far as I can understand. Anybody else? There's way in the back. Oh, you have something. Go ahead. Then you get the last question. Okay? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just wondering if you should be attached to the service that you do.
Why are you asking that question? Are you attached to something?
Like, should I give should I give a background on?
Yeah, you don't have to answer that question. I'll answer your question. So, she likes kirtan. Should you be attached to kirtan? I'm asking you. Should she be attached to kirtan? Yeah. But then what happens if, health or circumstance, and her fingers, or she's got pneumonia or something, she can't do it. She can't properly breathe. So then what's she going to do? Because she's attached to the service. So in her mind. So the mind goes, kablooey. Generally minds don't go kablooey completely, but, so at least the spirit of that service is the most important part of the service. It's not the musicality of being in kirtan. It's the offering of oneself and etc. So body, mind, words to Krishna in that medium and being attached to that. That's fine. But circumstance permitting. Let's take Prabhupada. Was he attached to the service of carrying out the mission of Bhakti Siddhanta and on behalf of the previous acharyas? And the form of it took many, 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 many shapes and sizes, but so what is it that one is attached to? That the attachment is, especially, should be for to please the master. Know what the master wants and carry out what the master wants. That's the servant and master relationship. So he had a spiritual master, and he was the order carrier of his spiritual master. So be attached to that. The shape may change because of circumstance, and certainly it did for him and for us also. So let the target of what the attachment is be clearly identified and refined as over time, especially. And then be attached to transcendence, not the goal, because that's up to Krishna. But the service that pleasing the Supreme Lord and pleasing the Supreme Lord can be understood by pleasing the representative of the Supreme Lord in that way. That my attachment be there. Not the form of the service, but okay. You get the last question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You provided a quote from the Gita and the purport from the Bhagavatam where Krishna is saying that it's to the degree that you surrender.
The sound is interrupting. Could you hold it? Yeah.
Yeah. In the previous quote that you shared from the Bhagavad Gita, you're saying, or Krishna is saying that he reciprocates to the degree of your surrender.
Yes, yayatama prapadyante. Yes.
Yeah. So this is an honest truth from myself. Sometimes, or even most times, if you're like, "Hey Krishna, I'm trying here," you could do a better job at reciprocating. That's somehow you feel. It's not a good about it, but the fact is that sometimes you don't see the reciprocation, and it becomes hard to be motivated. It can be discouraged. Or does Krishna don't want me, or things like that?
Are you fruitive? Yeah, that's to Nectar of Instruction, verse number 4. You know the verse? Utsahan nischayat daryat. So be enthusiastic as long as they get the result, right? That's not. Be patient. Be patient. And while you're being patient, be determined. It's the right combination. I recommend that you read the verse and internalize the verse. Krishna's there, and if he doesn't reciprocate, he may be examining you. Here's a little, I'm going to end with this because it's 2 minutes to go, the bell rings. The Brooklyn Henry Street Temple Prabhupada's up on the very high Vyasasan, and he's giving a lecture to a temple room packed with devotees in front of Radha Govinda. And I'm seated, like, here's the Vyasasan, and I'm right here. So I remember it very well. Prabhupada saying, Krishna may hear you offer a prayer to him where you say, Krishna, I am yours, please accept me. So Krishna may consider, oh, does he really want me? What if I give him a little trouble? You still want me? And the devotee says to Krishna, you can do with me whatever you like. Maybe he does want me. What if I give you a little sense gratification? Even his voice went up like that. And then Prabhupada turned his head away and said, no, I don't want. Please accept me in your loving service. And then Krishna may say, oh, it seems he really wants me. Let me give myself to him. No, it's a dynamic, but the message is, it's in Krishna's, it's his prerogative to examine us, to test us, to turn us upside down and hold us by the heels and shake us. And we're saying, wait a minute, this, like Bali, I surrendered everything to you. Why are you treating me this way? None of that. He was smiling. And Lord Nrsingadev, when Vamana said, I just wanted the world to see what kind of personality he is, because he knew. So Krishna knows who you are too. And every one of us, not just, finger pointing. So if it's not happening and you're feeling what you're feeling, it tells you something about you, not Krishna. You have an expectation, and he's not performing according to your expectation. I'm not saying that's a little extreme, but it's not necessarily what you're saying either. But in those three. Nectar of Instruction, verse number 4, those first three. Utsahanis Shayad Daryat. Read it, bring it inside.
The expectation is more like, why am I not feeling more closer? Why am I
He
still?
can do whatever he wants. Don't question. It's not, excuse me. You're supposed to jump when I say jump. Don't do that. He'll do what he wants to do, and it's okay. And how is it okay? The Dharyat, I have full confidence, full determination, full conviction. It's okay. Purification is taking place. However rapidly or slowly, purification is taking place. And if it's happening where I'm uncomfortable, that tells something about the attachment that I have to the outcome. As I have my want, I have my wish list, and you're not fulfilling my wish list. It's business. And so purification of that tendency. I'm not pointing fingers. It's just it's a condition, and stay with it on the confidence, because it's according to Scripture and our previous acharyas, etc. Now I'm looking at the clock, and the clock says it's time to end. Now, who is in charge of the kirtan part? Are you? Who's in charge? Deva Madhava. Oh, there he is. It's 7:30.
Impeccable time. Thank you, Maharaj. I really enjoyed Mother Shubha came to save me because she had her device with her.
Oh, really?
We did listen. Yeah.
Okay.
unless You guys are on your own mic system, so I wasn't able to hear that. I appreciated your calling it. It reminded me of a question I'd asked you some years ago, and you answered me that there's no substitute for purity.
Uh-huh.
And the
That stuck, huh?
yeah, well, yeah, well, because it stung a little, but it was exactly to the point, and I think you highlighting Prahlad Maharaj and his prayers today, is calling attention to that. That the real thing is the real thing.
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference.
Yes. This fellow back there, he's
Oh,
gonna
I know that one. We should just pull the curtain over. Good buddies. Thank you so much, Maharaj, again for coming.
Now, what's the kirtan plan?
Well, I think we only had a teaser from Uma, so I think we should have Uma sing, and we should have Linda Sundar come forward and play the Mridanga. And Maharaj, it'd be an honor to have you stay if you would like. Otherwise, I know that it's a long drive back. So
Besides the long drive back, I've got things. I've got 16 things waiting for me when I get back.
might be in China.
No, I did that yesterday.
Okay. Well, thank you, then, Maharaj. It's a
See the
pleasure to always
Prabhupada
have
ki
you.
jai.
That you remember us in the middle of January says a lot about your determination and affection. Thank you. His Holiness Ram Maharaj